guys, welcome back. Episode 20.
Yeah, UYL.
20 weeks in the books, man. This is monumental. This is a very, very special day for us. So first and foremost, before we start, we have to thank you guys for your support. To grow this fast in 20 weeks is crazy. It's tremendous.
And the growth continues. It's amazing. We ran into some people randomly and telling the stops we make, and the love has been amazing. The support has been amazing. The feedback has been great. People just want to talk to us about the podcast. So thank you. We're nothing without you. Like that, we can't say anything better than that.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. So we're gonna jump right into it. We got a very special guest today. So I'll give the layout. So obviously, real estate is very important in building wealth. So this is an educational show on finance, and you can't have an educational show on finance without talking about real estate, right? So we have Fernando Hernandez with us today. So I'll tell you who Fernando is. So if anybody's not familiar, DJ Envy is heavy in real estate right now, right? He does tours like all around the country. So the guy that got him involved in real estate, his name is Caesar, and he's real big in Jersey as far, I think he had like 600 units that he owns. So he kind of got Envy into real estate investing. So now they teamed up. So Caesar's best friend is Fernando. And Fernando is also really big in Jersey. He has 200 units in Jersey. So he has 200 units in Jersey, which roughly estimates to around $25 million altogether.
Say the number again?
Yeah. But the reason why I like this story, and I told him that over the phone, is that, you know, a lot of times people see celebrities like DJ Envy, and it's no disrespect, but they look at them and they're like, okay, well, you already had a leg up, right? So I can't do that because I didn't start with money. Or I look at a basketball player or football player. But the reason why I like Fernando is that he started from the bottom, right? Like, so it's like his story is very relatable, and tell the story is very relatable. And in a short period of time, in the grand scheme of things, he's been able to amass a very, very impressive portfolio of real estate on any level. Mm-hmm. Not like on our community level, on any level, right? 200 units is impressive on any level, right? There's not too many people in the world that have that type of portfolio. So to amass that in a period of 10 years, 12 years is extremely impressive, especially not coming from, you know, wealth, not coming from a background of real estate, and really starting it, you know, on the ground level and making mistakes and learning and things that nature. So first and foremost, thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Can you tell
thank you for the introduction too. That was
I'm
gonna borrow that.
His intros are legendary.
He definitely got it down pat.
Gotta do it right. So all right. So can you tell the people, because I heard your story the other day, and you know, as far as like being like a fifth year senior in college with like 90 credits and all that. How do you go from humble beginnings, getting kicked out of school pretty much because you didn't have enough financial aid, I believe, to having 200 units? Like, how did that happen?
It was never my intention to have 200 units. I mean, I remember one day speaking to Caesar, he's telling me like, yo, I met this guy, he's in Passaic, man. He has 250 units. I was like, holy crap, yo, like 250 units, man. I was like, yo, that's like $250,000 a month he's collecting in rent. It's crazy. That time, it was like in my mind, I'm thinking like, yo, we both like, yo, imagine we make $5,000 a month. You know, take that plus, see you have a little career and making like another 75, put that together, it's like, you know, you're making decent money.
Yeah.
So 200 units wasn't the intention. You know, my initial intention was get a 4-family house, then get the 3-family house, then get the 2-family house. With those 3 right there, that'll pay the mortgage for the 1-family house.
Yeah.
So really think about it. Most people spend about 50% of their money on their mortgage. So I was like, yo, if I get that covered, that's like a big thing. So that was the initial intention. But once I got getting like really into the real estate and deep into it, getting to know like other people who are investors, like, you know, your mind starts changing and you like start changing up. So slowly, you know, ended up, you know, going from one property. Then I got my second property, my third, and started getting multiple properties at the same time.
So that's really impressive. And your name's Lord of the Slums, right? landlord of Paterson. So
Lord of the Slums, yeah.
2004, right? I looked at your vision board, and I was like, hey, there's nothing there on the vision board, right? He hasn't accumulated anything yet. 2005, it's the same. 2006, all the way up to 2011.
That's when I bought
is
my
when you
first
get your
one.
first property. So what's the process during that time, right? Are we like, you know what, this really isn't for me? Are you down yourself? Like, what's the process? What's your thought process?
The process was not giving up, you know, and I keep that vision board is like, I purposely did that because you had a lot of family and friends, you know, they want to come down, sit down with me and, you know, so I could kind of like, give them some advice. And, obviously they know where I'm at right now. So it's always, what do I have to do what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's like, nobody wants to, you know, not that they don't want to put in the work, but it's kind of like they forget the work that was involved and it's like the patience too. So it's almost like, you know, you can't just jump in and think that right away you're going to do a complete gut renovation on a house, or you're going to build a house from the ground up like right away with having no experience. So that's basically my way of showing them like, look, you know, I put in the work, I was patient, I never gave up. So it's like, you know, follow that system and you'll be able to make it.
So, all right. So you have a system in place, right? Where you spoke to me about it over the phone that you and Caesar use. Can you just explain that? Like, as far as like you buy a home, then you take the cash from the home, you buy another home. Like, what's your blueprint?
So yeah, and that's kind of like what allowed me to like really blow up as far as like in real estate. So it's basically the system is, you know, you try to cash out on your property as soon as you're done renovating. So just to like run a quick math, you know, let's just say the house is worth $300,000. You pick it up for $100. Let's just say it needs 50 in renovations. So it's like originally when I would go to a hard money lender, I would just tell them, look, I'm buying the house for 100, I need 50 for renovations. And they'll give me the 90,000 on the purchase because it's 10%. And then they'll give me the 50,000 for the renovation, which was cool. Now I was able to renovate the house. But then eventually I got a little smarter. I was like, wait a minute. These are the hard money lenders. They're willing to give you 70% of the value. So if the house is worth 300 and they're willing to give me 70%, that's 210. So why am I just pulling out 150? Let me just pull out this 210 right away. So that, you know, so now if you renovate it for 50, but now you're not taking 50 for renovation. Let's say in this scenario, I'm taking 110. Now finish up the house with 50. You get that difference. So by the time you're renovating the house, you're pretty much already cashed out this money. And then you have the two options with your house. You can either flip the house, and if it's worth 300, that means you're flipping it for 300. Or you could just do a cash out refi, which will be at 75%, which on the loan, instead of being 210, it might be, let's say, 220. But you're already cashed out, so you're not really cashing out. You're just more like what I call parking the house. And the most important thing about this property, it needs the cash flow. I mean, cash flow is like the most important thing. So if you follow the cash flow, then, you know, and you do the system, you know, you're going to be all right.
So hard money lending, can you talk about that? Because people might not be familiar with, because people know about traditional bank loans, mortgages and stuff like that, right? But people don't understand, I don't think a lot of times, that you can get financing for a home outside of a bank.
Yeah,
right?
like when I heard the word hard money, I'm thinking,
Like a loan shark.
long story. It's gotta be this guy with a suit, hair slicked back, and he's like, I can give you some money. Like, what is a hard money lender?
So a hard money lender is a private lender, and they're an asset-based lender, meaning that they're not really focusing too much on your personal income credit. They're really focusing on what property you're buying, what's it worth, how much are you going to need, and, you know, do those numbers make sense? And for them to make sense, different lenders have different rules. I have lenders who they're willing to go 75% loan to value. Those lenders that are willing to go 70. Some, you know, they're really cheap. They only want to go, let's say, 55%. So it, you know, depends what lender you get. But the most important thing about them is like they're not focusing on your
Credit.
on your credit. You know, you got, you know, at one point, I think like the first hard money loan that I took out, my credit score was like a 585, which is trash. So and at that property in particular, I had no choice but to go through a hard money lender because I was trying to go through like a regular conventional bank, and they already had loaned me on a couple of properties. But I ended up getting a state tax lien on my credit, and that kind of destroyed my credit score. So I was able to reverse it, but to reverse it was going to take a few months, and they were like, they weren't going to wait a few months, and I couldn't wait a few months. I needed to do the deal right away. So that's when I was introduced to a hard money lender, and, you know, they made it happen.
So in that process, right? Because I'm assuming like hard money lenders, not many of them look like us.
No.
Were there some like discriminatory setbacks or anything like that?
You know what? Coming from the inner city,
you
know, I've learned in this business that sometimes we tend to be racist ourselves. It's kind of like, you know, you grow up in the inner city, and it's like everyone around you is like a minority, and like when you see someone who's not a minority, they're like either a police officer or like you see them on TV, like the politicians, and then you hear all these things of like, you know, situations, especially in the inner city dealing with cops, it was like you put in your head like, oh man, everybody's, they're racist, you know, they're gonna be racist. And you kind of come in already defeated, basically thinking that they're gonna be racist against you. And you know, that's not the case, you know, it's like, most of the people that I would say that financially have helped me out through loans have been white people. So, you know, that whole concept of like, you know, it's gonna be all racist, you know, it doesn't work. I will say this though, especially starting off, inner cities, you know, they're pretty dope now. Everybody wants to invest in them. But you go back, they were the first ones to take the hit. And, you know, going to a bank, nobody wanted a loan in inner cities. It's like when I first tried to do cash out refis, lenders would say, oh yeah, we're willing to go 70%. And once you submitted the application and throw in the zip code, they'll come back and say, like, you know what, we can only give you 60. It's like, why only 60? It's like, oh, because, you know, where you're located is a really high crime area. So it's a higher risk for us, so they chop it down.
So if anybody's not familiar with Jersey, you're from Paterson, Jersey,
Yeah,
right?
Paterson.
All right, so Paterson, Newark, East Orange, South Orange, Jersey City, any other place I'm forgetting?
That's southern Jersey.
I mean, but like I'm talking about northern Jersey.
No, yeah, you got your Jersey City, you have Elizabeth, you have Newark, you have Paterson, you have Passaic. You know, it's a whole bunch, and you have other like, you know, smaller
towns and stuff like that.
Are, you know,
all right, so but Jersey's it's like all places, right? Where you have the haves and have-nots, right? So there's very wealthy neighborhoods and there's very poor neighborhoods, right? So, but like all places in America, the poor neighborhoods in Jersey are changing now, right? So Jersey City, we was just in Jersey City. That's not even like that's completely different, right?
You see the skyline, the kind of
Jersey City is completely different. They're doing a lot of development in Newark right now.
Definitely, yeah.
Paterson, where you're from, gentrification's coming.
It's coming, yeah, definitely.
So
it hasn't hit like to the extent with Jersey City and Newark. And we always say the reason for that is because Jersey City and Newark, they have really good public transportation, like trains that go into the city. So that allows for that to happen a lot quicker. For us, we have buses, but we don't have like any trains that are mass transit like that. We have one that goes into Newark, but very few people use it. It doesn't have like that appeal where, you know, someone could just go and grab the train and get out there.
So what are the appeals, disadvantages, advantages? Because we hear this a lot, right? Where it's trendy, it's like buy back the block, right? So you actually have done that. You guys are actually doing that in real life. So, because I mean, you couldn't at this point. You can invest anywhere. You can invest in the suburbs. You can So for you personally, why is it beneficial to invest in the inner city, and what are some advantages and disadvantages in the inner city?
Well, for one, when I got into real estate, I wanted to get into rentals. So you're not going to go into the suburbs to do rentals because it's like the money's not there. And I've read a lot of books, and before I even got into like real estate. One key thing that I always read in is like all those other like investors who wrote books will always say, which I agree with it too, is like, go into like the tough neighborhoods, but the good parts of the tough neighborhoods. And then, you're going to do all right. So, but yeah, the suburbs, you're not going to make money. Where you're going to make the money at when you deal with rentals is going to be where the rentals are at, which for the most part is going to be the inner city.
Yeah. And that goes along with like zoning issues, right? I would assume like in the suburbs, people's homes aren't zoned for 2-family, 3-family a lot of times.
They design that way. They design one families, and they'll have their few multi-family complexes, but you're talking about $1 million properties, and you start off, that's just not realistic.
Right.
Okay. All right. So one other question that I wanted to ask you. So, okay, can you just break down your first deal? Because I think that's the hardest part that people, it's like all things in life, right? The hardest thing to do is to start.
Yeah.
Once you start, then you can you just explain your first deal, your first investment deal?
Yeah, so, going back to that chart where, I wrote down 2004.
Yeah, 2000. Yeah.
It's like, in my mind, 2004, that's when I said, okay, I got to get into real estate. So, went into real estate, but as soon as they ran my credit was kind of like shot. So, I had to start working on fixing that credit. By the time I finished fixing the credit, it was like 2005, 2006. Started working with a real estate agent, and that's when, I said I wanted to get that 3-family so I could live for free in one. That didn't really work out too well. She couldn't find me anything, so I ended up getting my license. Got my license, but 2007, I ended up getting fired from my job. So now, couldn't get into like basically real estate investing. So took that as an opportunity to I had my license. Let me just do real estate and let me learn the business as a realtor. So let's just fast forward when I ended up getting my first property, which was 2011. That was a short sale. I put the offer like in 2010. All right, now this deal, when I put in the offer, I put an offer of 150. I qualified. I was good to go.
Yeah.
The bank approved it for 228. It's not much of a difference on the mortgage, but it's like when you're like really right on the borderline, that made that made a huge difference. So I couldn't get the loan. I mean, I went to like 8 different banks to get like a loan. Everybody said no. So, which is a thing that I tell people now all the time. Like, listen, when someone tells you no, that just means it's not a yes right now. But find out, what do you have to do to make that a yes? That yes could happen in a couple of days, or it could happen in a couple of years. But like, definitely find out what you need to do so you could, get it corrected. Did that. Went back to like one of the guys, he kind of broke down to me why I didn't qualify. It's like I had an auto loan, I had a lot of credit cards maxed out, and I also had a huge IRS bill. So it's kind of like I had to kind of maneuver all the money, make a payment plan with the IRS instead of paying them in full, pay down some credit cards, pay off a car, and did all that. And then I had like basically like the money and the means to get the first property. It was a game changer for me, the first one, because it was a 4-family house, and it was all rented through Section 8. Mm-hmm. Now, what's crazy about that I went, I had to tell friends, family members about it, and everyone was basically telling me like, nah, don't do that. 4-family house, that's crazy. You're gonna be dealing with tenants, it's gonna be a headache. Get the 2-family with the attic in the basement. Which in my mind, I'm like, well, that's a 4-family down. But then for that though is that, let's say in Jersey, 3-family, once you have a 3-family, you have to deal with the state. And they come and inspect your property every 5 years. And, most people don't like dealing with that. So with 2-family, you get no inspections. And now you have the attic, you have the basement. It's fair game in Paterson, attics and basements, for some people, for those who are willing to take the risk. But for me, it was a game changer because it was like a 4-family house. 2 apartments paid the mortgage. The other 2 apartments were basically for myself. So now that's basically about $3,000 per month that I was making on that property. That's about what I was making for my job as working as a realtor. Mm-hmm. So now it's kind of like, wait a minute, if I was happy with $3,000, I could pretty much say, let's forget this. I'm done. I retire. I'm gonna stay home chilling. But that, that opened up my mind. I just got a grasp. I'm like, wait a minute, now I need to get another one. So now what do I have to do to get the other one? And started like strategizing and figuring out ways. It was the time was also perfect too, because it was like, during that time, nobody wanted to jump into real estate. I mean, I would go to barbecues and I would try to convince people to buy and to get an investment property. Everybody thought it was just after a commission. Like, nah, you just want to sell that house. And it's like, nah, man, like, you're gonna make good income off of this house.
So you bought your first investment property in 2011.
Yeah, 2011.
Took the equity out of that and then bought another one and then kind of just parlayed it from there.
No, actually, it didn't take out the equity on that one. It's like, that still was in my mind. I still didn't know about like cash out refis or anything like that. It's got the first one. The game plan was to just save up money. I'm making $3,000 per month. So if I don't touch those $3,000 in a year, that's close to $40,000 I was gonna have. Mm-hmm. So it was just kind of like saving up. And then like a year later, what happened was there was a property that I had put in an offer for a client of mine. And we put in an offer on a 4-family for $150. He was gonna buy straight cash. Months passed by. He hits me back up, because it was a short sale. He got desperate. He couldn't wait. He said, find him something else. Found him a 6-family for $200. A couple of months passed by. The realtor that was selling the house, she calls me up and tells me, hey, listen, we finally got the approvals. Your client's still interested. And I was like, yeah, definitely. No, he wasn't, but I figured, make that commission, sell it to someone else, right? Yeah. So she's like, no, it's kind of weird, man. But it's like, the house only appraised for 75. So I was like, oh, what does that mean? She's like, 75 is basically that's what your client's gonna have to pay. So I was like, okay, great, yeah, let me give him the good news. So we went back, got on the computer, opened up an LLC, and started making phone calls. I had no money, so it's saving those those $3,000 per month. It's like the house that I bought needed some work, so I spent some money on that, and I wasn't managing the money right. So started making phone calls, I ended up borrowing some money, had some money saved up, used that to kind of renovate the house, and that's how I ended up getting my second property. I ended up getting this 4-family for $75,000. And that's the first one where I sort of got like a cash out refi on it, because like 8 months later, I was able to go to a bank and they gave me $100,000 loan on that one. So I was able to get back my money on that.
So your company, you said you filed an LLC, so your company became your client. You became your client.
Yeah, basically.
In a sense,
like,
right?
Yeah, in a sense, it's like the bank didn't care who purchased the house. You know, they just wanted the 75.
So what are some of the benefits of putting a house or property in an LLC?
At that time, the benefit was it was a requirement. So
Okay.
it was a business deal. Like it's to for one thing, I wanted to make sure doing research and stuff, and it's like getting multiple properties. I had this thing in my head that I had read, like, oh, if you get a different LLC for every property, that's going to limit your liabilities. So I kind of went that route.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just keep a couple of LLCs for my properties. I don't, there was a time when I was actually opening up an LLC for each property. But then after a while, like, gets kind of, it's like, you got to follow these paperwork and everything for it. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Just keep good insurance on your house.
Yeah.
All right. So now you got the backstory. So now we're going to go into the blueprint of how you actually do your day-to-day operations. So we're going to get it going. All right. So we're going to go into the nitty-gritty. But before we start, we have to acknowledge this because we don't want this to go over people's heads. So, okay. 2012, which was 7 years ago, right?
Yeah. So,
you borrowed $30,000,
yes.
right, to do your second investment property. And then from there, you kind of just learned the ropes and you're at where you're at now. So, in the words of Kendrick Lamar, right, you took $30,000 and you freaked it to $25 million?
Yes.
7 years.
Yeah, it's I'll say 2016 though. That's kind of like where the magic happened though.
Okay.
It's kind of like that's when like I was consistently able to purchase a property, fix it up, rent it out, and then once it's already rented, go to a lender to cash it out.
All right. So can we? All right. So can we?
Like,
So can we get?
Like,
So
if you look at the chart though, like you notice how it's kind of like I was like, all right, it's like getting a 3, it's like 1, and 3.
Yeah.
But it's like 2016. That's kind of like when it really like made.
The numbers.
All right.
So actually 2015. My bad. 2015.
So can we go?
That's when I did like the first cash out.
Can we go to 2015 when you start to really take off and kind of just because that's like your blueprint, right? As far as can you just break that down as far as the flips? How you look at a home, right? Can you just tell exactly like what you do?
So what I do is like when I look at a house is like try not to look at a house. I try to look at numbers. So it's in the formula is basically I keep chart of my portfolio and I ask myself like, all right, is this going to increase my net worth? And then the other question is this going to increase my cash flow? And if the answer is yes, then it's kind of like, all right, it's a thumbs up, I could get this. But now there's the other question now is like, how fast and can I get my money back on this deal? And then there's like, if all 3 are yes, then that's when I jump on the deal. Okay, yeah, this is a deal for me. So it's like every property that I see with that intention. Is like, I think like the most important thing you need to know is how much can a house appraise for? And then it's like the key component here is appraise for, which took me a while to understand because before I would look at a house and I was just like such an honest guy and I would look at it and I would tell myself like, oh, you know what? That house, I could sell that for $250. So it's worth $250. But going back now to like the inner city, and it was kind of like why I stuck to Paterson because I felt like I knew Paterson like the palm of my hand, and not sure if it's if it's the same for every inner city. But let's say Paterson, you get a block. This corner right here is like where all the hustlers are at, and it's a lot of crime basically, right? But this corner right here, which is the same block, super quiet. It's cool. You could walk by. Nobody's gonna try to hustle you for to buy any drugs or anything like that.
Yeah.
But now they're on the same exact block. So now you picture somebody coming from out of town, like an appraiser or anyone, and now they see this property over here. But now when they look at comparables, they're looking at the whole neighborhood and gonna look for the median area. So it's like if this property right here, basically, let's say this one sells for 200, but let's say this one sells for 250, let's just say, right? But now, if you're buying this one and you're buying it through a short sale, it's going to be a foreclosure. More than likely, they're going to use this one here as a comparable. So now this brings down the value of this, but this one is worth more, and it's worth more because you know the area better. So, and then going back to the other thing about knowing about appraisal and values, that's kind of where it's at because it's like that this one's going to sell for less and this one's going to sell for more. But when you put those two on paper, depending which way it goes, remember as I told you earlier, is like appraisal is not a science, it's an art. So depending on the artist, depending which way they want to go, That value could come in at 200, could come in at 250. So I try to look for the houses worth 250 that I know the value is going to come in at 200. So it's kind of like now off the bat, as soon as I buy the property, I already know I have 50,000 in equity. The other part of it too, which is why I always try to look for properties that need renovation, because most people do not want to deal with renovations. Most people want to just grab their keys, go inside the house, and they're good to go. So when you get a property and you're renovating, you're adding value to it. Mm-hmm. So now, let's just say the scenario, right? You ended up picking this house for 200, but you know it's already off the bat, it's already worth 250. But now you let's say you throw 25 into it. Now it's not 275, now it's 300. So now you added more value to it.
So when you're doing that, right? When you're about to renovate, right? I'm assuming on your first property, you didn't have a team, or did you going into it, right? So what was the process of selecting a team of contractors, like honest people, right? So that you don't get ripped off, or was it like, you know what, I'm gonna learn the craft and do it myself, or what was the process in creating that?
Well, first properties, let's just say the second property that I purchased, right? That one I did not do a gut renovation. I just went in, threw a couple, some laminate floorings, painted the walls, patched up a few holes. I think I did like one bathroom. Had I purchased the house today, that probably would have been a complete gut renovation. So you have to do what you can handle, what you know. Mm-hmm. So when you start off, I advise everybody just start off, with light renovations and kind of like work your way up. The way it works is basically you get yourself, that one handy guy, which once again, this is why it works out. If you're able to buy in your neighborhood, you can make a few phone calls. Hey, do you know, sir? Like, oh yeah, my cousin has a cousin who is pretty handy. He can help you out. So you start off with the handy guy. But after a while, when you start doing more intense renovations, they might refer you to someone else. Or it's like, just go to Home Depot. It's like, and you study, like Home Depot is where I buy most of my materials. And it's like, and if you go in there and you study, when you see somebody walking out and all they have is just electrical materials, and this guy very likely is an electrician, or at least knows how to do electrical work. Same thing with a plumber and so forth. So it's kind of like, and you sort of build up your team, but it's really a trial and error. Unless you get some referrals, you're going to get burned. A lot of people ask me a lot of times is like, have I ever lost money in real estate? And the answer is no, just because I've been able to buy properties that have a lot of equity in them. But that doesn't mean that I did not lose money on the deal. So it's like, if I go in and get a property, I'm projecting to make, let's say, 50,000, and I get this one contractor and, he messes up and I end up losing 10,000 with him, still make 40,000, but I didn't like lose money, but,
You're still in the green.
Yeah, it's still in the green. Contractors, it's tricky with contractors. It's like, that's why I call them contractors, because if you're not careful, they will con you. What I do now to minimize the chances of somebody ripping me off is basically I pay for all the materials, which is pretty cool too, because it's like you start getting your miles. They add up. So I pay for the materials. I make what I call a draw schedule, which is the same kind of schedule you have to give your hard money lender. When you get a loan from a lender, you can't just tell the lender, oh, I need 50,000 for renovation. You got to kind of like map it out. Like, all right, I'm gonna need 2,000 to get the house. I'm gonna need this much for this, and then you kind of like do every step of what's required. You map it out. When this is already mapped out, then you start pulling like the money out.
All right. So hold versus flips, because you hear there's two kinds of trains of thoughts in real estate, right? Some people only want to flip. Some people only believe in buying and holding. Some people do both. You're more on the buying and holding side, right?
Yeah, more buying and holding. It's a little more complicated, because it's like when you buy and flip, it's pretty straightforward. You buy a house, you renovate it, you fix it, and you sell it, you make a profit. When you're trying to hold it, it goes back to the whole thing of appraisal. What if it doesn't, it doesn't come through and the appraisal doesn't come in right? So, you kind of got to like really, maneuver your way around that. But it's if you buy a house that has, and again, you follow like that formula, make sure you follow the cash flow. It's thing about real estate too is all numbers. So you kind of have all the numbers in front of you. Basically, you already know how much money you're going to collect in rent. You already know how much you're paying for the property. Over time, once you already know this, you already know what you're going to spend in renovation. So you kind of already know what the mortgage is going to be, what the rent is going to be, what the profit is going to be. So when you see it's a really good profit, you keep it, and you don't want to let it go. You want to keep it.
So how do you learn that? Like to say, okay, all right, I understand that you want to buy a home for cheap and fix it up, but the average person, they don't have any knowledge of like, okay, how much this is actually going to cost to renovate, or how do I know it's a good deal? Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're just going in with no team, just by yourself, how do you?
So very likely you're going to be a first-time home buyer. So I recommend either go for a 3-family or 4-family, and light renovation. So it's like, painting the walls, maybe throw some laminate flooring. Make sure you know how much rent is coming in on this property, and then also see how much you're paying for it, and know what your mortgage is going to be. So the difference, that's going to be your cash flow. As far as like what is the number, it's kind of like, for me personally, like for any property that I get, 1,500 is kind of like my number.
1,500 in rent.
The difference between the mortgage and the rent. So let's say
Okay.
if the mortgage is 2,000, I need to be collecting 35.
Okay.
So the way I do that is basically 500 goes aside, and that's for your vacancies, your repairs, the things that can happen in the house. And then the other 1,000 is kind of like your profit.
Okay.
That's the minimum that you want.
That's, rule of thumb for me, for my area, that's kind of like, if those are the numbers, then it's a keeper, and I go through on the deal. If those are not the numbers, then I just kind of like pass up on the deal.
Do you have a minimum as far as the value of the home? Like you want to get it for at least 50,000 under its market value or something like that?
Yeah, so going back to like the formula is basically the value of the property. Then I look for what can I cash this out for. Like right now, I have a lender who gives me 75% loan to value, so I already know value, multiply that by the 75%. Let's just say the number is 200. So kind of I use 200 as my mark. All right, then I'll say, okay, now I have the 200,000 right here. Look at how much I'm paying for the property. Let's just say it's 100. That's 100 spread.
Mm-hmm.
Now I gotta look at, all right, how much is it gonna cost me to renovate. If it's gonna cost me 100 to renovate, and the cash out is kind of like 200. It's 200. It basically like there's no money in there basically. So it's kind of like, all right, if it's 100, then I have to be like, let's say 150 or even 175, so that once I'm done renovating and I do the cash out, I'm actually able to get my money back. Like the goal is not so much to make a profit on the cash out, but just to at least get your money back so you can move on to the next one. Because if you do it correctly, if let's say you have $40,000, $30,000 to buy a property, you go out, you buy a property, you renovate it, you rent it, and then you cash it out. If you can at least get back your 30,000, and it's like, let's say from it'll take you 6 months to do that. Mm-hmm. So 6 months later, basically, you got your $30,000 back. You do that again. So like it's kind of like with that same money, every 6 months you could buy a property, or every 3 months depending how fast you move.
And you're taking your money out. Just so people are clear, you're taking your money out via not home equity loans, right? You're taking your money out via the hard money.
Like not just the hard money. So keyword is asset-based lender.
Asset-based lender.
Yes, it's income-based lenders will be like your Wells Fargo, your Bank of America, your local bank. They're the income-based. You go to them, they want to see the credit score. They want to, they want to see that you have really good income taxes. That you're actually making good money yourself. Mm-hmm. All of my money comes from real estate. So when I go to a bank and I still try it out once in a while because they got really good interest rate. And I always get denied for the loans because it's like all they see is like they just see all these expenses. Everything's coming from real estate. So for them, it's like, oh my God, it's like such a high risk. Like, we can't rock with you. But when you go to these asset-based lender, they don't see any of that. All they're seeing is like, what is the house? Like, this is the house right here. How much you think it's worth? Oh, it's worth this much. All right, this is how much rent. This is how much I'm collecting the rent. So it's like, all right, cool, yeah, we could give you the loan on that.
So outside of hard money lenders, who else is an asset-based lender?
Asset-based lender, the one I use right now, they're called Visio.
So they're like companies.
Yeah, they're companies. Yeah,
Okay.
Nationwide companies.
People.
No, they're nationwide legit bank companies, but they just work with investors.
What's the one that you use called?
Visio lending is the one that I'm currently using right now. That's another thing too. I mean, you got to keep these guys in rotation because it's like the other lender that I used before, they were giving me 70%. Now this one gives me 75%. That 5%, that's a huge difference. It's if you're talking about a $300,000 house, that's $15,000.
Yeah.
What's the interest rate usually from that compared to like a regular traditional bank?
So a traditional bank might charge like a 5%. These guys are charged like a 6.5%.
Yeah, and
then there's a 5-year arm. So after 5 years, you have to either sell the house or you have to refi it.
And we kind of spoke off camera, but we said hard money. Anybody could be a hard money lender, right? You can do it individually, or you can team up with a bunch of people to do it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the other things is that the time frame, right? The time frame when they want their money back is obviously a lot different, right? This is not a 30-year thing, right? They want their money back. And what are some of the time frames?
Well, hard money lenders, they want their money back ideally like in 1 year. They might give you an extension for another 6 months or another year. Mm-hmm. With these cash out asset-based lenders, they'll give you loans for fixed for 5 years. It's like the 30-year mortgage, but basically it's like the interest rate's fixed for 5 years, 7 years, or 10 years. Mm-hmm. But after at one point they want you to either refi them out, sell the house, or you could go with the 30-year program, but the interest rate is gonna be a lot higher. You might look at like a 8.5%, 9%. So I'd rather just go with the short term because I figured 5 years for me is like a long time. and I'm constantly evolving in real estate. So I figured get the lower interest rate just to increase the cash flow. And then in 5 years, I'll figure it out, see what's the next.
So what do you usually do in 5 years? What you do? Like, what's your game plan?
Well, let's just say right now, I work with my portfolio right now. Right now, I just started building brand new construction houses. Those I'm not going to keep. Had I done new construction a couple of years ago, I definitely would have kept them. But my mindset right now is to develop buildings, and I already have the land to start developing buildings. But I feel that that's like too far of a reach for me right now.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to end up sending about from 10 to 15 new construction, sell those, get that money, and then start building the buildings. So like in 5 years, I already have a couple of buildings. Once I start developing the buildings, let's say if I develop a 30-unit building, I'm going to start unloading 30 units of these like smaller properties. Like I'm going to deal with like the headache of these smaller ones when I can have 30 tenants in one section.
Yeah. If this sounds like Monopoly, it is. Like I literally watched your vision board, and like the last board is like, and when I get all these things, I'll have my Monopoly. So you're starting with the little greenhouses until you can get the red building, right? And once you start doing that,
three greenhouses and one red hotel. That's
hotel. Yeah.
That's, if you understand Monopoly, I'll say all the time. If you understand Monopoly, you can understand how to make money in this world.
Yeah, look, I'm gonna tell you this right now. Like the way I play Monopoly as a kid and even now, that's the same way I approach real estate. It's like my strategy when I play Monopoly is just, obviously you got to go around goats, you just collect the money. But whenever I land on a piece of property, I try to get that property. Like I focus on just getting like the property, and then focus on getting like kind of like the houses. So it's kind of like that's sort of what I've been doing. Is like if I see a really good deal and I land on it, I'm gonna try to get it. It's like don't let it pass up. Now I own properties that are kind of like next to each other. If you look at a building anywhere you go and you really size up the building, you realize like it's not that big of a land. It's just that on a small piece of land, they just went pretty high up and they have all these units. So in the city is where you're gonna find the buildings. You're not gonna find them in the suburbs. So now if you basically, it's sort of just like Monopoly. If you get 4 properties, and on those 4 properties, now you can pop a building.
All right, so that leads perfect segue into our next segment where we're gonna talk about your next level, what you're doing, what you just briefly talked about, but we're gonna go into detail as far as the next level. All right, so we're playing Monopoly with real money, like the what was that video?
That
President's video.
Man.
Shout out to Jay. We had to reference Jay. We kept on the streak alive. AZ.
True player style.
Yeah, that's a fact.
True player style. We're gonna play with some real money.
AZ, Dame, Big. We was kind of raised off of music, so that's what we relate to the music a lot. But if anybody from that era, you remember they was playing Monopoly with real money. But Fernando's actually really playing Monopoly. Like, it's not a rap video. It's not a rap video.
Deeper than rap.
No. It's bigger than rap. It's bigger than rap.
We get inspired by rappers.
So, all right. So now you talked about the blueprint as far as to buy the homes and then to get the money out of the homes and then buy another home and kind of keep that cycle going. But you're saying that, see, all successful people have a plan, right? Nobody just start. We had another guest on episode 11, shout out to Derek Falcon. He was a great episode on, he's a restaurant owner in Baltimore. And he spoke about you have to have a vision, right? He was like, whenever he goes into something, he thinks about like, what is his grandkids going to inherit? Like, that's like his play. Like, what's the grandkids going to inherit? Even though he doesn't even have kids yet, I don't think.
No,
you
don't.
So that's like, you gotta always think 3 steps ahead. So you're already planning 3 steps ahead, right? So you're doing the real estate thing with the mixed unit, multi-level homes and things of that nature, multi-family homes. But the next play is a bigger play, right?
Yeah.
So we want to talk about that in this segment. So you told me over the phone when we spoke, and I saw at the seminar that now you're just buying plots of land, right? Yeah. And you're a real estate developer.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
So a couple of months back, I was with Caesar, and we were at a political function, and we just chopping it up, and he showed me the email. He's like, "Oh look, these lots, they're for sale. You're interested?" And I looked at them, and I saw the addresses. I was like, "Oh man, I'm just garbage." And he was like,
Can you pause for 2 seconds? Because when I say lots, right, a lot of people will think, "Oh, you're buying a parking lot." No.
Lots of land.
So that goes over. Like they're like, "Oh, he's buying a parking lot."
Yeah, lots basically that's where your properties look like the house is located.
Exactly.
So,
Okay, thank you.
So he looks at them too. He's like, "Yeah, man, I thought the same thing." But as I'm looking through, I saw there was one address that popped up, and there was 2 lots, and they were next to 2 properties that I already own that are right next to each other. So I was like, oh, wait a minute. I was been looking for that one. I was like, whoosh. So I was like, yo, let me get that list. He sent it over to me and then reached out to the realtor, but I just wanted those two. I wasn't interested in the other ones.
Yeah.
So, but the guy was like, nah, the seller, he's only willing to basically sell the whole everything together. Like he's not gonna let you just make it pick which ones you want.
Mm-hmm.
So I still push for. I was like, you know what? Then I'm about to I try to squeeze in half of them. I was like, send it off for like half. He's like, nah, he wants, you gotta buy everything. So I lowballed him on everything, and just with the idea, I said, you know what? I'm gonna buy everything, and as soon as I buy it, did the numbers. If he gives it to me at this price, I could just throw it back on the market, just make a few dollars on it.
Mm-hmm.
So. Get into the process. I ended up going under contract. As I'm going under contract, I started doing more research. I started researching brand new constructions, and I noticed that they were selling for like $350, $330, $360, and I realized that they're new constructions, but these new constructions were built in 2003.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these will be built in 2018, so I was like, wait a minute, that means that these have to be worth a lot more than so at least 375. So I figured, all right, so the key is like, number one, you got to know what can you sell something for. So like, all right, 375. So now, how much am I paying for these lots? On average, I was like paying like 25.
25,000.
25,000.
How many lots did you buy?
22.
You bought 22 lots, 25,000 a piece.
Yeah, 25,000 a piece. Yeah, and there was like a 2-family in there that they just kind of like threw in.
So how do you buy lots? You buy it in cash, or can you get like a loan for that?
That was like a mission because I'm calling up like the hard money lenders that I use, and they're like, we don't own on vacant lots. I was like, wait a minute, okay, I just put up like $20,000 non-refundable. What you mean you can't loan me on this? Like, now you know what? You got to put up like 50%. I was like, shit, I can't. I was like, no, that's too much. Then I started making phone calls and I started explaining to them, having conversations like, how much business we done. You got
some great content, man. If I call somebody for $20,
well, it's all about relationships.
Yeah, exactly. You build some really good relationships, man.
So, and I'm a quiet guy. Like, I'm not like a big speaker, but when it comes to like business and stuff, and I get on that phone, it's like I start transforming, man. I'm like, it's like Michael Jackson gets on stage, quiet dude off stage, but on stage he has the performance showtime. So long story short, I convinced them to loan me, and they were willing to do, the lender was willing to do 20%. One thing about these lots that I picked up though is that because they're located in urban areas, they're located in redevelopment zones, which meant that the city has these kind of sort of like set idea of what you can build on these lots, and if you meet the square footage and what they want, then you don't need to go in front of a zoning board. You can just basically submit paper, like just submit plans to the building department. Is just like taking out a permit on a whole new construction. Mm. So that allowed me to leverage these out. So as soon as I closed, I was able to get with the architect and submit all the paperwork, and I already have permits on 5, which means I already have the financing in place to build these 5.
What's the permit? You talked about that when we first spoke. You had to have the permits. Like, it's a process, right? When you buy land, like, it's different than just buying a home, right?
So, yeah. When you buy land, it's more complicated because it's like banks don't really want to loan on land because what do you have? You just have dirt, basically. There's like no property. There's no cash flow, nothing on it. It's just basically vacant lots. Mm-hmm. And in most places, when you buy a lot, you have to go in front of a zoning board, which can take a year before you can start building on. These, fortunately, I was able to kind of like build right away. So now going back to like the numbers, basically like so 375 and then 25 for the lot, that puts me like at 350. So now the difference between now, let's say a few years back, is like the market where it's at now, where it was a few years back. If we go back like 3 years, you built a new construction home, you were lucky to get 250, maybe 275 for it. But now think about it. Now let's say if it costs you 225 to build and you're gonna sell it for 250, you're almost like breaking even basically, or even like 275, not really making much money. So now that you can go 375, that gives an extra whole 100,000. So that makes a big difference. So that kind of changed my mind. I said, you know what? Why am I gonna not do complete renovations when I could just basically build all these homes? Yeah. So now instead of grabbing the lots, keeping the ones that I want and selling off the other ones, I said, no, forget that. I'm gonna basically get all these lots and I'm gonna build all of them. Yeah.
So can we go back a little bit, because you said Caesar had a list, right? And it was 22 lots. Where does someone even see that list? Like, is that at an auction? Like, where are we getting that? We have to go to a county clerk or something?
No, that's just relationships. It's basically when you're known, for making deals will pop up on your email. Like, I get phone calls all the time. Like, hey, listen, I got this deal. And it's like, if it's a good deal, jump on it. If it's not a good deal, then I'll let it go. A lot of times people tell me like, hey, you ever let go one of those deals? Like,
Please.
my thing is this: it's like you don't want it because it's like if this is the reason if I let it go, it's because it's not a good deal. Basically, if it's a good deal, I'm gonna somehow, some way, I'm gonna make it happen.
So all right, so okay, so now you're building homes, right?
Yes.
So when you're building homes from scratch, right? What kind of homes are you building? How do you build a home? Who do you have contract? Like, how does that happen?
So, all right. So, I mean, first of all, the idea of building something from the ground up was scary. I was like, I've never done it. It's like, how am I going to do this? But, going back to the whole renovation schedule, when you map it out, when you like kind of break everything up into pieces, it's like when you do a complete renovation, the first thing that I basically look for is, you need to gut the property. Once you gut the property, then you go to the framing. It's like a system. Then from framing, you go to, you end up doing the plumbing. Then you do the electric, then it comes the insulation, then comes the drywall. So it's like a process, a step. You just kind of map it out step by step. So now, if you put complete renovation on one side, you put new construction on the other side, what's the difference between the two? The only difference is that on a new construction, you need foundation and you need framing. Once you have foundation and framing, pretty much what you have is like the skeleton of a house. When you buy a house and you do a gut renovation, that's all you're left with, the skeleton of a house. So now, I kind of like really did the math. I was like, if I picked up the loft at 25, how much can it really cost me to do a foundation? And I just, and I figured, made some phone calls, just, contractors giving me prices, and then like most people said like, oh, $40,000.
From cement up, 40,000?
Yeah, just the foundation.
Foundation, okay.
So I was like, all right, 40,000, and then made some other phone calls. How much is for the frame? The same thing came up to price like 40,000. Like, all right, 80. So now 80 plus the 25, that's 105. I was like, I'm paying that right now.
To renovate.
For like a complete renovation. So, and that's the worst case scenario.
Right.
Now, being like someone who knows how to maneuver my way around construction, it is like I'll probably cut both of them down like by half.
So how much it'll cost? Like, how much will it cost to build up everything? Your house.
Like, right now, I mean, it's gonna be my first rodeo, so it's kind of like it's just a budget that I have in my head, and my budget right now is like 175.
And you sell that home for how much?
375.
So you make 200,000.
But then you minus the 25 of the land and minus your closing costs.
Right.
So let's say like 150. So like 10 of them is like 1.5.
So what's the?
Are you selling these homes or are you
selling all of
them?
Yeah. Like I said, like only selling them because it's like now my vision is to develop buildings. So I already have the lots for the buildings. I just don't have the knowledge of building a building, and I don't have the liquid funds to get into a project like that. Because it's like I have this big portfolio and net worth is looking pretty nice.
Yeah.
But the cash flow is looking pretty tight because it's kind of like the way I see it. Once all my personal bills are taken care of, it's like if I have $5,000 in cash flow in a month.
Yeah.
The way I see it is like money has to work for me. I don't work for money, so it's kind of like that money's just sitting in the bank. I just got basically $5,000 acting lazy in the bank, so I got to put them to work.
Yeah.
So I look around and try to find like a property and that I know I can hold up. Like, all right, that's $5,000 worth of mortgages that I can hold up on the house until I'm ready to start, working on it.
Yeah, you said.
Wait.
Okay.
Money works for me. I don't work for money. Shit, I like that.
I was actually going because you told me something off camera. You was like net worth over what was the slogan you said?
Because it's kind of like separate things. You got your asset minus the liabilities, which is let's say
we've heard that before.
You said net worth rich but cash poor.
Oh yeah, net worth. Yeah, I'm net worth rich but cash flow poor. Yeah.
Right. So
I'm cool with that for now because it's like I'm trying to build up. I'm trying to it's climb up to a certain level.
Right. So your net worth could be 30 million, right? But your cash flow could be 3,000, and that's okay, right?
Like, exactly. Yeah. Like I wish I had that. But it's basically like it's two different things. Like, let's just use rappers, for example. Like, people who get these large amounts of money, they're cash rich.
Right.
Like, they have a lot of cash on hand, but they probably have, like, no net worth. Exactly. You probably see people with, like, the nice cars, the jewelry and everything, and they're riding around with their net worth.
Yeah.
So, but then you can see someone like me, I'm driving a Toyota Tacoma. So it's like, I'm not studying, but it's like the net worth is looking nice.
The net worth is looking more than nice. What's the time frame on building from the ground up?
That's the thing, so it's like we don't know when you're not familiar with something. In my mind, I would have said, it's like a year is going to take to build up a house.
Mm-hmm.
Before I started doing the house, I was like 6 months. I'm gonna build, it's going to be the time frame. Now the time frame is looking like 3 months. So I think like 3 months I could knock out a house.
Wow.
And I could probably build them like 2 to 3 weeks apart. So if you go on my Instagram right now, I already posted 2 of them.
I saw you with the cement.
Yeah, exactly. So one already have the foundation. The other one I'm working on the footing. And then probably like another 2 weeks, one already is going to have the framing. The other one's going to have the foundation. And I'm going to be working on the footing on the next one. And it's like, and they're going to be lined up like that.
Are you just using the same team each time? Or are you like, you know what, I'm going to capitalize by using different teams that I trust to work on each property?
It's like I have my core guys that I trust. And like I know they can handle things, and then it's their responsibility to build up on them. So it's kind of like my project manager. His job is to kind of like I tell him this is what I want to do, and then he goes out, he finds the extra help, even if it means reaching out to a contractor to kind of help him out. It's crazy. Like if I reach out to a contractor, let's just say they might tell me $15,000, I tell him to reach out, he ends up getting it for 10. Because it's like the relationships and basically the concept of like, hey, listen, you got to give me a good price because I need to make money off of this. But then, obviously I know what's going on and the savings get passed down to me.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, free education, right? That's a good thing about the show is that it's all free and all of our guests are willing to provide information because you didn't have to tell people what you're doing. Like you could just be selfish.
Nah, yeah. Like I'll tell you this much: is like when C's did the first seminar, and he tells me, "Yo, I'm gonna do a seminar." I was like, "Oh, that's cool." Like, yeah, remember because we spoke about doing like little seminars, but in churches, like little small things. It's gonna give back to the community. Like, and I see every time I see like a pastor, I talk to him like, "Listen, I do real estate. You want me to come and speak to your congregation?" Then it's like, "Let me know. I'll come through and I'll speak." Nobody's ever invited me. you know what I mean? But it's kind of like maybe now, it's like getting phone calls and stuff. But so I thought that's what it was gonna be. He's like, "Nah, we're gonna do like these seminars, for like." I was like, "Yo, we got money, like, like, why do this?" But then when I went to the first seminar, right, I was supposed to speak at the first seminar, right? And it's like when I get there, I was like, "Oh, nah, I can't speak, man." It's like I'm not a public speaker, so I was like, "Nah." But looking at the crowd, when I seen the crowd, I seen like everybody's like from the first one was in Paterson. I seen a lot of people that I know, and it just kind of like hit me. Cause I'm like, you know what, man, that was me 10, 15 years ago, man. I knew nothing, and I needed like somebody to kind of just not help me out, like giving me a hand, but just kind of like guiding me, like tell me this is the direction. And it's kind of like, and we came from nothing, so it's like I feel like when they see us, they're not seeing these guys in these fancy suits, they see themselves. So they're saying like, you know what, if they did it, they were able to put in the work and look where they're at now, that means I can do it. So I feel like I felt bad like that I didn't speak. I felt bad like, yeah, you know what, I let my fear, stop me from going up there, and these people, it's kind of like they need like that motivation. You know what I'm saying? They need that information. So that motivated me to kind of like to push through and actually speak on stage. But I feel like it is like a responsibility for people like us that we are at a certain level where we have like this knowledge of this information, and it's kind of like we could keep it, but it's like if Tiger Woods right now showed you how to play golf, Michael Jordan showed you how to play basketball, that's not gonna dim their light.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? They're still gonna be who they are. So I feel like if I go out here and I tell you everything that I do, how I do it,
you still gonna eat regardless.
I'm gonna eat regardless.
Share knowledge.
I'll tell you this right now. I mean, like I could like stop today, and just with these lots that I have, with these plans that I have with the buildings, I'm gonna stay busy for the next 5 years. And all my crew, everybody that works for me, they're gonna stay busy for the next 5 years. So we're all gonna eat. Yeah. So it's kind of like, why try to keep that information? It's kind of like, I don't need to bring you down so I could elevate. Like, I mean, it's like I could elevate myself and then bring you up, and it's like, and I'll still be up too.
Everybody eats, man.
Yeah, everybody eats.
I love it.
Yeah, everybody gotta eat. You know what I mean?
Sure, man.
Especially, coming from inner city, man, it's like we don't have the resources. So it's like, when you're from inner city, the resources that we do have is like, it's what everybody knows. It's like, you have the resources, like you got the hustlers. Maybe, somebody owns like a little bodega or something like that, but that's not real money. You know what I mean? It's like, you might know somebody owns like one property, but you really don't know those guys, those corporations that own these multiple big properties. So it's like, if we're in that situation, that's where we at, then it's like, and then the thing is like, we didn't start with money. So it's not like we just started, with lawsuit money, anything like that. We started from the ground up. So if we started from the ground up, you can start from the ground up. And I feel like anybody could like, get into real estate, own a couple of properties, and I feel like everyone should try to own a couple of properties.
Yeah,
that's a fact. So once again, man, thank you for coming. Can you tell the people how to contact you, your social media handles and all that?
Yeah, like social media, you find me on social media. I go by Lord of the Slums. That's Lord _of_ the Slums. Basically underscore between each word. But I'm not a slumlord. I just I thought it was just a funny name. I'm not here trying to sell anything, so it's like it doesn't. I feel like it doesn't matter. I feel like my when it comes to lenders, is like my portfolio, my credit score, like my background that speaks for itself. So like me being like trying to do a little clown with with the name, that's just me being funny.
Yeah, and you still on tour too, right? With NV and Season.
Yeah, definitely. I'm one of the guest speakers with the DJ Envy and Flippin' NJ seminars. I definitely suggest if anybody, whenever we have one, if you can make it, definitely make it out. I mean, we speak. I'm talking about 5 hours. It's really nonstop. Like we don't. It's like there's no breaks in between.
Yeah, we went. Me and Troy went to the one in Jersey last week.
Yeah.
So
your story, I was like, wow. Like this guy looks like us. Like there's no like.
No, but I said really everybody up there, because everybody's been a guest on our show except for Caesar and MV. So
come.
Y'all next. But yeah, Matt, that's our guy. Sabine, everybody's just good people, and like you said, everybody's just real relatable. Down to earth,
and everybody could like relate, and you know what? It doesn't have to be necessarily real estate investor. I mean, there's like Sabine, she's an attorney, and she's a female.
Yeah.
So female minority attorney, that right there, that's something that somebody goes over there, and who knows who she's basically inspiring to be that, because that's not like a common thing.
Shout out to Sabine, man. And she's about her business. She's very knowledgeable.
So I feel like everyone that. Everyone that goes on stage, from Jose the credit guy, is like everyone that goes up, they have their own little stories, and they have everybody. We all have like similar backgrounds, where we kind of like come from the city, come from nothing, and we're trying to like make it up, and then we all want to kind of like help out and give back.
For sure, man. Well, once again, man, we thank you. We thank you. Before we wrap it up, Troy, can you give some people some information?
Yeah, so our Patreon is moving well. And a lot of people, I'm realizing that they don't have any idea what Patreon is. So Patreon is a way for creatives to put out extra content and come up with some ideas that can help. So what we've been doing is putting out bonus content, putting out the episodes a little bit earlier. Our new features are going to be dropping before the summer, my Hometown Hero series. We got a new campaign that's coming along with that. And we had a great conversation the other day with one of our patrons, and it came to our mind that, why are we giving them bonus content? So starting this week, we're actually going to start putting out unedited episodes. So you're going to see everything, the behind the scenes, the in-betweens, because we have some great conversations. I think she said, y'all hoarding content. I'm like, yeah, well, we're putting it out sporadically. And if you check out YouTube, you'll see some of those bonus content features. So the Opportunity Zone video with Matt was one. We have the hedge fund one that we're going to be putting out with Q. Shout out to Q, who did the stock market episode. So patreon.com/earn your leisure. We have 5 tiers. Feel free to join at any tier. And it will tell you what you get at that tier. And our season 2 is out. So be on the lookout for that.
Of what?
Of our merch. So shout out to Mike and the team for working diligently to put that out. We got our kid sizes now. We have some phone cases and some mugs. So yeah, feel free to support that, because everything helps, right? We're not able to do what we do without y'all. So we appreciate that sincerely.
Yeah, and definitely in YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube also, because we're gonna put bonus content on YouTube as well. And we're going to have a lot of different stuff that is not on the audio side of the podcast. Make sure you still subscribe to iTunes too, because we need to get the #1 spot on iTunes. That has to happen. But also the YouTube, we're going to have a lot of different things. Like we have an Opportunity Zone segment with Matt. That's only on YouTube, only available on YouTube. So we're going to start doing more stuff on YouTube, a how-to series, like how to start an LLC, stuff like that, little 5-7 minute clips on YouTube. We're going to start doing stuff like that. And as Troy said, our merger. And also, we are going to, we did a networking event in LA, which was crazy. So, we got to come home. We're going to do it. We're going to do it big for the city. We're going to do something in New York City very soon. We'll be releasing the dates on our Instagram, information on our Instagram. And we want to have, hopefully we can get all the guests that we had. So Fernando,
welcome to the alumni club.
I'll let you know this day, man. If you could come through, that'd be dope. So you'll be able to meet the guests in person, and it is dope. If you saw the video from LA, know anybody in LA, that's how we're gonna do it. But it's gonna be way bigger in New York, because it's where we're from. So
man, this is like what you guys got right here, man. It's pretty dope, man. Because it's like it's not just one one direction. Like, you know, you guys have a little bit of everything. So it's like anyone that needs to get inspired in different fields, you guys kind of providing something financials in different fields. You know,
Exactly. That's exactly. That's what it's all about, man. Try to give people as much information as possible, and then from there they can kind of pick and choose which ones they can apply.
What drives them?
That makes it dope because it's like literally everyone has earned their leisure, right? So like even on your board, 2004 to 2011, there was zero, right? They didn't see that part that you had to struggle and you had to figure out a way, but you never gave up, right? So everything you have now, like you've earned. Like you literally earned the freedom.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? That was also a big part of that was also fear. It's like, you know, you because it's like you're scared to fail, and it's like what's gonna happen if I fail? So it's like, you know, it's like a lot of holdback too. So I also think that too, when my daughter was born in 2013, that kind of like pushed me too. Because the following year, that's when I was able to do multiple deals at the same time. So I put in my head like, yo, I gotta like, I can't
somebody's depending on me.
I can't have my daughter like, you know what I'm saying? I was still in the hood. I was like, I can't, you know, I grew up in the hood. And I was like dreamed of like kind of like moving out and like, you know, like living the American dream basically. So it's kind of like I wanted to push, you know, and then make sure that, you know, financially that we were all good, you know, and you know, she helped me out. So
yeah, you are changing the narrative of what the American dream is. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
No, you are the American dream.
Yeah, exactly.
You are the American dream, man. So yeah, before we leave, I have a book tip that I always say. My book tip this week is Nelson Mandela's biography. It's called A Long Walk to Freedom. And it's a really good book. It outlines his story, you know, as far as doing, I think, 30 years in jail. 30 years in jail and coming out. And it's dope. It's really inspirational. And it's a dope book. So I highly recommend anybody read that, no matter what you're interested in, because everybody can get some inspiration from that book. So that is it. EYL 20 in the books. Thank you for your support. We'll see you next week. Peace.